They're above you.
Oh, yeah, they are.
Oh, the Beatles are above you. Oh.
The Beatles are above me.
That is perfect.
I'm nowhere near them. Anyways, what I was saying about the song is just that when Zach and I and Sage met for the first time, I had like 3 different snippets of like these 3 little blues type thingies, and I just came down and they were like, let's do something, what should we record? And I was like, oh, here, I've got these snippets, let me change this key, let me shift this thing around, let me come up with some lyrics, and that's how Outlaw was written. And I really wish that stuff was, I wish I wrote more that way, because when you sit down sometimes and you actually think about what you're going to write, then you overcomplicate something. It's like it gets all muddled, the message isn't right, you know? And it's just, when things happen by chance like that, it's just a much more natural sound, I think, and it gives for, I don't know, something very concrete. And I feel as though music doesn't have to be complicated, and that's what blues is all about, and that's why I love blues. It's just so simple.
When you go to write, do you ever like say, okay, I'm going to go upstairs, it's time to write something, or you just end up there somehow? You end up where you...
Yeah, most of the time it's just I pick up my guitar, and then something happens. Like for that, do you remember the open tuning thing that I showed you? Fag that. I was coming back from somewhere, and I took out my acoustic, and the last 3 strings, it was actually an accident again. It was the last 3 strings were tuned all weird, and I was like, oh, what is that? And I started tuning differently for the bottom 3 strings, and then I came up with that song. And it's not finished, but you know, it's another accidental thing.
What was the tuning on the bottom strings? You remember?
It was G, A sharp, and D. I think. Yeah, G, A sharp, D.
So it's a G minor chord.
Right, and it was like fad gad, actually. It wasn't fag dad. I actually like it's a strange version with sharps. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting. But yeah, it was another one of those accidental writings that happened.
Do you know right away, or say that you come up with something on the guitar, do you know the songs? You know that's the song. This is the one. Because it seems like Outlaw, you know it's good, right?
I like that song, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's just I don't go specifically for that sound or something. Like, I've written lots of pop punk actually stuff, and I hate pop punk. I just can't stand pop punk. But for whatever reason, that's what comes out every once in a while. So you have to just go with it and just hope that somebody eventually somewhere is gonna like it. You know, you can't really like control what happens.
So when did you start? Before you play, when did you start writing? Like, do you remember like learning your first chords on the guitar and then writing? Or
I do. My first teacher, I started when I was 6 actually, and my first teacher was Jérémy Grandet. He was a French dude that was all goth, but he had Rasta hair for whatever reason. He was an interesting person, and I really didn't do anything. I played like When September Comes, and that's it. And like maybe not Hotel California, Danny California, I think, by the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Those are the 2 songs in the space of like 3 years that I learned. The rest, I actually, for whatever reason, I was influenced by a bit of flamenco, I guess. Just picking up an instrument that looks so typically Spanish, so typically classic. I just thought, well, the first thing I ever wrote is like, no. And I played that for like 6 hours straight when I was 7. I mean, it was just, it stuck with me so much that it's just, and it ended up being a part of Rainstorm, which is another one of our songs.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a good song.
So yeah, that was the first time I actually thought I had written something on my own. And then when I was 11 is when it started getting like, oh, I can actually write.
Wait, where were you then? Weren't you in France?
Yeah. I was in France until I was 4, and then I was in Luxembourg, which is a tiny little country.
Yeah.
Yeah, off the side of Germany.
And how long were you there?
I was there for 8 years.
So you came here
I was 12 when I came here.
It's actually not that long.
Yeah, that was 4 years ago.
Okay, one last thing. Your jazz influence comes from France? Or where did you pick up the jazz?
I have no clue. Honestly, my parents, when I first started listening to music, my parents played me a lot of Led Zeppelin, Aerosmith, The Doors, that kind of stuff. And then 2006 is when I really fell in love with music, because that's when the Gorillaz album, Demon Days, came out. And that's also when the Arctic Monkeys' first album came out, and that's when I went insane. Like, my mind just blew up when I heard that song. When I heard every single song on the album. My dad had bootlegged the album, so we got it. Like, yeah, it was wonderful.
So a big part of this is your parents. How many of you like influenced by the, because I remember all the music my parents listened to as I grew up. And it was, probably in the last year I realized that's why I really got into music.
Yeah, I think it's later in life that you realize. But the thing is, for influences like jazz, I don't know where that comes from, honestly. I got into jazz before I started listening to jazz. It's just, I don't know where it came from.
That's interesting, because he's got it down just by ear. I don't know how he does it, but he pulls off the jazz thing really well. Okay, that was good, Alec.
So, Outlaw?
Yeah.
Yeah.